What's up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Okay, we're getting right into a new custom square frame. I was gonna build this one to look similar to the last one we just did, but then I decided against it and I said, you know what, let's just wing this one and see what we can come up with. Now, I harbor freight a pipe threader that you use to turn this bead roller or turn this roller into an electric one. It broke, so we're going manual. Now, I've had a few comments say, all my frames look the same, or you just keep building the same frames over and over. Well, my reply to that is yes. These frames are my style. They're also very functional. I also want to point out that I build these frames mostly to sell, as they are the way I make my money. The frames need to be functional and ready to ride for the person who buys them, so I can't go crazy all the time. A side note to that is time is money. If I take too long to make a frame, then I have to charge more for my time. This can start to spiral out of control, and before you know it, the frame is out of most people's price range, and I don't want that. As you can see here, I was having an issue trying to figure out where I wanted the metal to go. Metal only bends in so many ways, and for you to get it where you want it to sit in your head, I was having an issue. Now, I do want to point out that I don't build frames for YouTube. The video of the frame is just the byproduct of what I'm doing. I make less than $100 a month on YouTube ad revenue. That doesn't even cover the cost of frame material. So in order for me to make videos, I need to build frames. I don't need to record the process, but then you wouldn't see a video from me for months. When I do build for YouTube, it's usually a build that I do for myself, and I can get a little bit more in depth with the design and trying new things. Even then, it's all out of pocket, but I am lucky enough to have this platform along with others where I can ask for sponsorships and get helps from bigger companies. I hope this clears up some of the comments I get, reasons why I don't attach a rocket to the back of the bike or a motor, or build a custom trike that I don't even have room to store it. YouTube is a different animal. I've been doing this for about 4 years now, and I try to post every Saturday or Sunday. I have yet to see the fruits of my labor, but I know with hard work, one day I will. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back to the build. Alright, just going around the frame, laying some quick tacks, keeping everything together while it's laying flat on the table. I think I've said this before, I like to get as much done while it's laying flat as I can, because once it's in the jig, it's straight up and down. Some things are a little harder to get to, and if you're old like me, it gets harder to see. Here's something I normally don't do, and that's fully weld my head tube while it's laying on the table. My table is relatively flat, and when I lay everything in position and I cope it really well, I tack weld all the corners. I tack weld top, side, front, bottom, whatever. That actually makes it so the head tube can't move. So if being able to weld it like this is way easier for me. Once I stick it in the jig and the head tube and frame is a little bit above my head, and since I don't have a rotisserie, I'm able to lay this on the table and get a really nice bead and a lot more penetration and just really paying attention to what I'm doing. Alright guys, right here I'm getting ready to do my tank plate, and just a little tech tip for you. What I like to do is I'll lay the aluminum down, and when you're tracing that, you want to trace the inside and the outside of the tube. Reason being, especially when you're doing square tube, is it's going to come to a point. If you cut it on the outside, it's going to be super big. If you cut it only on the inside, it's going to be too short. This will give you a real good measurement to go by if you're going to be making a tank and you want it to kind of sit flush with the frame. You can see right here, it sits perfectly flush with the outside of the diamond, and that's exactly what I was looking for. Later on, we're going to add tabs. We'll be able to bolt it on. Right here, just sanding down the aluminum. Aluminum is very soft, gets scratched real easy, so just running it over with some 80 grit. A little something that I saw on another YouTuber did was I don't have anything where I can connect my marker to. This was a pin holder or pencil. So I needed to hold my marker. Just throw some tape on there, and now I can use this to scribe my lines. Before, I was using the tool to actually scribe the metal, which would leave a gouge in it, and then I'd have to sand that out later. But as you can see here, it works perfectly. Easily just tape that right on there, and now I can make sure that I'm getting a perfect line all the way around so we can get ready for our bead roll. If you guys know me, I've said it before, I love my mixed metals. I had a whole sheet of brass just laying around from when I did the store-bought custom build. I want to do some more brass in this build, and I don't think this is the only place we're going to do it. I'm going to throw some brass probably in some other places. And if you guys don't have this tool, you can pick this super cheap up at the Eastwood company, and I'm going to link a description below for Eastwood. Use my code Seaberg10 that you see up on the screen now. That code will give you a discount, I think it's 10% on Eastwood Company's website. So also helps support the channel. But if you want to go over there, get yourself something. The bead roller that I use is also Eastwood, and you can help out the channel too. Now I like to take my tank plates and stick them together and actually bolt them together, because what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure that they are both exactly the same by putting them together and then using the Fabricating around the edges just to make sure everything is exactly perfect and they're both the same on the same side. Don't want to waste any aluminum if you don't have to. Also, one thing that helps with them putting the two pieces together like this is that when it's time to do holes through both sides, you can drill both holes. I'm going to do dimple dies in the center of these two, and this is going to allow me to take it over to the bench press here and put holes in both pieces so they're exactly the same. Also guys, you've seen me use this a million times. Anchor Lube's been a big supporter of the channel for about 1.5 years now. If you guys click that link in the description and get you a bottle, that does help support the channel because it shows what I'm doing on here is getting out to everyone else. Alright, all the holes are drilled. Now we're going to go in there with a deburr and just clean that aluminum out. You want to deburr this before you go sticking the dimple die in the hole. You don't want to smash the shards of aluminum into any part of the aluminum because it is soft and it'll just scar it. And then you'll have to get in there with a grinder, and just easier to do it now. Get it out of the way. Now, since I've had this bead roller, I've learned so much new stuff. Like what you see me here doing is I'm swapping the dies around because I actually want this to be almost a sunk in look instead of it poking out of the metal. So I want the dimple dies to look like they're sitting down inside the metal opposed to being out. I've also learned that you don't need to crank this thing down. Give it enough tension to where you can feel it tug, and then just give it a little bit more. And then if you want it to look deeper, you're going to take the dies and little by little you want to open the dies up, but you want to keep the same tension. This is going to allow you not to warp this really thin aluminum or sheet metal. 18 gauge sheet metal or this here, which is 0.40 aluminum, is really easy to warp. And once you've warped it without a shrinker stretcher or having a English wheel, I'm not going to be able to get it back to shape. Here it sat perfectly, no problems whatsoever. Just use a little acetone now to get the marker off of there and clean it up, and then we're going to go grab some of that brass to stick up underneath it, and that thing looks beautiful. I did go ahead and sand the brass down because it was pretty scarred up. I went ahead and I started with a 120, a 220, a 320, and then I ended with a 400, and that seemed to give me a nice sheen, kind of what I was looking for. You'll probably want to put a clear coat on this to leave it, because brass does tend to start turning like a darker gold color, not really nice and shiny and bright. So you got to clear it or it'll just tarnish. Alright guys, it's time to get the tank installed, and what I like to do is I'll take some tape, lay the tank exactly down how I want it to lay, and then I'll tape it there. Because what I'm going to do is flip it over. Now the brackets are already attached to the tank, as you can see here, and now I'll be able to weld those to the frame or just give them a couple really big tacks, and that way I know that the tank is exactly where I wanted it to be, and it comes out perfect. Alright, now as you can see here, I'm going to bolt the tank up, and I am using these little brass flathead screw bolts. I don't know if I'm going to keep them or not because I cannot get them all going the same direction, which is really messing with my OCD. So we may go another direction on that. Alright guys, time to get the bottom bracket in there. Everything's already been tube notched. This is the jig that you get when you buy the Chop Source jig kit. It's a must. Gotta have it. This is the only way you're gonna get your bottom bracket in there nice and straight unless you have a really flat jig table. Here we're getting ready to knock out the upper chain stays, just getting some tack welds on there to hold everything in place and get that ready to go. I did change on how I was going to mount these. I was going to mount them behind the seat tube. Instead, I decided to run it in the front. And here, I'm just kind of making a point where I'll cap it off. And it looks pretty cool from the front because you'll see these like little diamond shapes, and it kind of flows with the frame and the whole diamond shape theme. Alright, gonna cap off the end. What I like to do is once I get this clamped down, I'm gonna line it up with the dropout so that I can get the exact same angle so that when you're done and you cap it off and you're looking at it from the side, the arm appears to be going in the same direction as the dropout. Now I am going to use, what I like to do is once I've got this done, I'll use some 16 gauge steel to cap off those ends. You don't need anything crazy, just a nice little square piece, and it should be good to go. Want to make sure it's all nice and level before I tack it on, because once it's on, it's on. The seat stays. It looks the same as everything else you do. I mean, they're gonna say, just bear with me, I've got something planned. What are we doing here? Come on. Are you gonna help? No, I'm not helping. Oh, I know what they're gonna say. Good luck to you. Just sit back and watch the magic happen. Okay. Well, good luck. No. So guys, this is just some scrap metal that I have. So I had an idea of how was I going to get the bottom to be in line with the top when I'm not attaching it to the dropouts. And like normally I'm going to attach the chainstay to the dropouts so that I know that the bottom and the top are going to be the same. So I figured I could make a jig, and that jig would actually let me run the chainstays behind it, and in that way it could be the same on both sides, and I wouldn't be second guessing myself or just guessing in general. I was quite happy with this fit up. Normally I don't do it as a tube notch. Normally I'll just angle cut it in and then I can weld it to the flat part of the square tube. But with it running directly parallel with the frame, I wanted it to be even. So I went ahead and I kind of did like a diamond notch in that lower tube so that it would line up perfectly, and it worked so good. Now, I'm not going to lie, this was way more complicated than I thought it was going to be, but as you can see here, it slid on perfectly. It's got a nice tight fit on the top, nice tight fit on the bottom, and then I just measured out both ends to make sure that they were the same. Building these two is probably the hard part. You got to make both sides match, you got to build both of them the same, and not everything is perfect, and this is where your preparation prior to getting to this point really matters. So is it what you expected? I didn't think so. Yep, okay. Still not done yet though. So not bad. Give me a minute and I'll show you what we're doing. Deal? But it's still, yeah? Okay. I'm not done with this yet. We're gonna get back to it next week, I think. I've got some stuff that I want to do in here, and actually, if you guys want to see it, I think I'm gonna run this tank plate. I kind of want to do that in there. I'm not gonna be that one that says, wait till next week, and this is what we're gonna do, because I don't really care. So, I think I'm gonna try to run this same type of plating in here, because I think that's gonna look super cool. I do gotta watch for chain clearance and make sure the chain doesn't run into anything. Let me know if you guys want to see me build this frame. I've already ordered the fork. I'm gonna do the bars for it. All I would need to do is get some wheels for it, because these are just mock-up wheels. But let me know if you guys wanna see me build this. Don't really know what else I'm gonna be doing. So anyway, We're going to get back on it next week. Like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. See you later.